My daughter-in-law served me poisoned soup to steal my inheritance. I didn't scream. I just slid the bowl back to her and whispered, "You take the first bite." The humidity in Savannah hangs in the air like a wet wool blanket, heavy and suffocating, especially in August. It clings to the Spanish moss that drapes over the ancient oaks lining my driveway, and it seeps into the bones of this old house, making the floorboards groan and the windows stick. But tonight, the heaviness in the air wasn't just the weather. It was the pressure of a lie that had swollen to the bursting point. I sat in my study, the leather wingback chair cool against my back, the only sanctuary in Harper House that Monica hadn't tried to update with her gaudy taste in white velvet and gold leaf. On the mahogany desk in front of me lay the family trust ledgers. They were open. They were bleeding. My name is Evelyn Harper. I am 68 years old, and I spent 40 years building a logistics empire that moves freight across 3 oceans. I know how to spot a discrepancy in a manifest from 1,000 miles away. I know when a container is light. And looking at these numbers, I knew my bank account was being looted. It wasn't a sudden heist. It was a slow, parasitic drain. A roof repair for $12,000 on a guest cottage that had a new roof put on 3 years ago. A landscaping fee of $8,000 paid to a company that, when I looked it up, was a shell corporation registered to a P.O. box in Atlanta. A medical expense for my grandson Leo that I knew for a fact never happened because I pay his insurance premiums directly. I traced the line item with my finger. July 14th. Urgent structural maintenance. $25,000. I knew where that money went. I had seen it on Monica's wrist last week, a diamond tennis bracelet she claimed was a high-quality replica she bought on Etsy. Monica didn't wear replicas. Monica wore the sweat of my labor crystallized into carbon, and she wore it with an arrogance that made my blood boil. My son David was somewhere over the Pacific Ocean right now piloting a 747 to Tokyo. He was a good man, a skilled pilot, but he was blind. He was blind to the fact that he had married a woman who viewed him not as a partner, but as a host organism. He saw a former beauty queen who needed taking care of. I saw a viper in Chanel slides. I closed the ledger with a heavy thud. The sound echoed in the silent room. I needed to confront her. I had waited too long, hoping David would see it himself, hoping she would stop before she crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But the $250,000 hole in the trust wasn't just greed anymore. It was desperation. You don't steal that much that fast unless you are running from something. I stood up, reaching for my cane. It was made of black walnut topped with a silver handle. I didn't strictly need it to walk, but I liked the sound it made on the hardwood. Tap, tap, tap. It was the sound of authority. It was a warning. Downstairs, the house was quiet, save for the low rumble of thunder in the distance. A storm was coming in off the coast. The sky outside the French windows was turning a bruised purple, the color of a fresh hematoma. I walked to the door of my study and listened. I heard the clatter of pots and pans coming from the kitchen. Monica was cooking. This, in itself, to be suspicious. Monica didn't cook. Monica ordered out. Monica hired caterers. Monica complained that chopping onions ruined her manicure. But tonight, she had insisted. "A reconciliation dinner, Evelyn," she had said this morning, her voice pitched high and breathless. "Just you, me, and Leo. David is away, and I feel like we've been distant. I want to make it up to you. I'm making your favorite. Potato leek soup." My favorite. It was a nice gesture on the surface, but my gut, honed by 4 decades of boardroom warfare, was twisting into knots. I walked to the top of the grand staircase and looked down into the foyer. The chandelier was dimmed. The mood was set. It felt like a stage play. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't know until later, was exactly what was happening in that kitchen while I was upstairs reviewing the evidence of her theft. The following is reconstructed from the security footage I reviewed later and the testimony of the only witness who mattered. In the kitchen, Monica was vibrating with panic. She wasn't cooking for love. She was cooking for survival. Her phone was sitting on the marble countertop, buzzing incessantly. It was a text message from a man named Vinny. The messages were short and brutal. 5 p.m., Monica. Payment in full. Don't make us come to the house. We know where your kid goes to school. Monica stared at the phone, her hands shaking so hard she nearly dropped the ladle. She was drowning. She had borrowed money from a loan shark to pay off the credit cards she had maxed out buying a Porsche she couldn't afford, thinking she could flip the car or hide the debt before David noticed. She was wrong. The interest had compounded. The shark wanted his money, $250,000. Today. She looked at the ceiling, toward my study. She knew the only way to get that kind of cash was the wall safe in my office. It held $500,000 in bearer bonds and emergency cash, but the safe was biometric. It required a retinal scan, my retinal scan, and the system had a failsafe. If the primary user was deceased, the backup key, David's fingerprint, would activate immediately. But David wasn't here. So she needed the primary user. She needed my eye. But she couldn't just drag me to the safe. She needed it to look like an accident, a tragedy, an old woman with a known severe medical condition passing away at dinner. She reached into her Prada purse, sitting on the counter next to the organic leeks. She pulled out a small glass vial. It didn't have a label. It contained a thick, reddish-brown sludge, shrimp paste concentrate, industrial strength, used for flavoring massive vats of commercial seafood chowder. To a normal person, it was just salty. To me, it was a biological weapon. My allergy to shellfish is anaphylactic and immediate. Even the steam from boiling shrimp can close my throat. Ingesting a concentrated dose would stop my heart in under 3 minutes. Monica looked at the pot of creamy white soup bubbling on the stove. Potato and leek. Thick, heavy, rich. Perfect for masking textures. Perfect for hiding colors. She uncorked the vial. The smell was pungent, briny. She poured the entire contents into the pot. The red sludge sank into the white cream. She grabbed a whisk and beat it furiously. The soup turned a slightly darker shade of beige, but with the chives and the heavy cream, it just looked rustic. She added more pepper. She tasted a tiny drop on her finger. It tasted like potatoes, leeks, and a vague, savory, umami richness. It didn't taste like murder. She threw the empty vial into the trash compactor and hit the button. Crunch. Gone. She took a deep breath, smoothing her silk blouse. She checked her reflection in the oven door. She looked terrified. She forced a smile. It looked like a rictus of pain. "Pull it together, Monica," she whispered to herself. "Just one dinner, one accident, and you're free." She didn't know she had an audience. The pantry door was ajar, just a crack. Inside, sitting on a step stool behind a 50-pound bag of rice, was my grandson, Leo. Leo is 6 years old. He is quiet, observant, and small for his age. He has David's eyes and my patience. He had snuck into the pantry 20 minutes ago to steal a pack of fruit snacks because Monica had put him on a no-sugar diet to improve his complexion for her Instagram photos. Leo sat in the dark, clutching his fruit snacks, watching through the sliver of space between the door and the frame. He saw his mother crying. He saw her shaking. He saw her take the little bottle out of her purse. He saw the red sludge go into Grandma's soup. He didn't know what shrimp paste was. He didn't know about loan sharks or retinal scans, but he knew his mother. He knew the way she looked when she was doing something she wasn't supposed to do, like when she hid the shopping bags in the trunk of her car so Daddy wouldn't see them. He knew secrets were heavy, and he knew that the red juice wasn't part of the recipe. He stayed quiet. He was afraid of Monica when she was in this mood. She snapped. She yelled. So he shrank back behind the rice, waiting for the coast to clear. I came down the stairs at 6:30 p.m. sharp. The storm had broken. Rain was lashing against the windows in sheets, drumming a frantic rhythm against the glass. Lightning flashed, illuminating the foyer in stark strobe light bursts. Monica was waiting in the dining room. She had set the table with my grandmother's wedding china, the gold-rimmed plates we only used for Christmas. She had lit candles. It was a beautiful tableau, if you ignored the fact that the hostess looked like she was about to vomit. "Evelyn," she said, her voice tight, "you look lovely." "I look old, Monica," I said, walking to my chair at the head of the table. "But thank you. It smells interesting." "It's the leeks," she said quickly. "I braised them in butter first. It brings out the earthiness." "Where is Leo?" I asked. "He's washing his hands," Monica said. "He'll be right out." As I sat down, Leo walked into the room. He looked small. He looked pale. He was wearing his good shirt, the one with the collar, tucked in crookedly. He walked over to his chair on my right. He didn't look at his mother. He looked at me. His eyes were wide, round saucers of fear. "Hi, Grandma," he whispered. "Hello, my darling," I said, reaching out to squeeze his hand. His hand was cold, clammy. "Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," he mumbled, climbing onto his chair. Monica bustled in from the kitchen carrying a silver tureen. Steam curled up from the lid. She placed it in the center of the table. "Shall we begin?" she asked, a little too loudly. She lifted the lid. The smell hit me. It was rich, creamy, heavy with cream and onions. But underneath it, there was something else, faint, almost imperceptible. A briny note, like the sea at low tide. My instincts pricked up, but I dismissed it. It was probably just the sea salt, or maybe the storm outside was bringing the marsh smell in through the vents. Monica ladled the soup into the bowls. She served Leo first, then she served herself. Finally, she served me. She gave me the biggest portion, a generous steaming mound of white soup, speckled with green chives. "Bon appétit," she said, picking up her wine glass. She took a large gulp of Chardonnay. Her hand was trembling so hard the wine sloshed against the sides of the glass. I looked at her. "Are you all right, Monica? You seem jittery." "Just the weather," she laughed, a brittle sound that cracked in the middle. "I hate thunder, you know that." "It's just noise," I said. "It can't hurt you." I picked up my spoon. It was heavy silver, engraved with the Harper crest. I stirred the soup gently. It was thick, luxurious. Monica was watching me. She wasn't eating. She was staring at my spoon with an intensity that was unnerving. Her eyes were locked on the silver bowl as if it were a bomb she was waiting to see explode. I lifted the spoon. The steam rose, carrying that faint, briny scent closer to my nose. I brought the spoon to my lips. Suddenly, a small hand shot out from under the table. Leo grabbed my ankle. His grip was surprisingly strong. He squeezed my leg hard, his fingernails digging into my skin through my stocking. I froze. The spoon hovered 3 inches from my mouth. "Leo?" I asked, looking down. He wasn't in his chair. He had slid down, ostensibly to retrieve a toy car he had dropped. He was under the table, hidden by the long tablecloth. He poked his head out near my knee. His face was pale, his eyes terrified. He looked at his mother across the table, then looked up at me. "Grandma," he whispered. The sound was barely audible over the rain pounding on the roof. "What is it, Leo?" I asked. "Don't eat the soup," he hissed. I paused. "Why not, sweetheart?" He leaned closer, his voice trembling. "Mommy put the red bad juice in it." The world stopped. The rain stopped. The thunder stopped. The only thing I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears and the terrifying clarity of my grandson's words. Red bad juice. I looked at the soup. I looked at the creamy, innocent surface. Then I looked at Monica. She hadn't heard him. She was still clutching her wine glass, her eyes fixed on my spoon, her lips parted slightly, holding her breath. She was waiting for the swallow. She was waiting for the choke. She was waiting for the inheritance. I dropped the spoon. Clang. It hit the china bowl with a sound like a gunshot. Soup splattered onto the white tablecloth. Monica jumped. "Evelyn, what happened? Did you spill?" I didn't answer. I looked at her hands. They were shaking violently now. She set the wine glass down, but she missed the coaster, and the glass tipped, spilling golden liquid across the table like a spreading stain. "Oh, God," she muttered, grabbing a napkin. "I'm so clumsy. I'm sorry. Just eat your soup, Evelyn. It's getting cold." I looked at the soup. I looked at the woman who had married my son. I looked at the mother of the boy hiding under my table. She wasn't clumsy. She was an assassin, and she had missed. I sat back in my chair. The fear that had spiked in my chest for a second, the primal fear of death, vanished. It was replaced by a cold, hard rage. The kind of rage that built my company. The kind of rage that crushes competitors. I didn't scream. I didn't reach for my EpiPen. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a shark that has just scented blood in the water. "You know, Monica," I said, my voice steady and smooth as glass, "you worked so hard on this." "I did," she stammered. "I really did. Please try it." I reached out and placed my hands on the bowl. "It seems a shame for me to start without a toast," I said. I slid the bowl across the polished mahogany table. It slid smoothly, the china scraping softly against the wood, until it came to rest directly in front of her. "You take the first bite," I said, "as a toast to us, to family." Monica froze. She looked at the bowl. She looked at me. The color drained from her face so fast it looked like a shade had been pulled down. I can't," she whispered. "Why not?" I asked, leaning forward. "Is there something wrong with it?" No, of course not," she said, her voice rising to a squeak. I'm not hungry. I tasted it while I was cooking." "I'm full." "Nonsense," I said. "You haven't eaten a bite, and it's potato leek, your recipe. You told me it brings out the earthiness." I picked up her spoon. I held it out to her. "Eat it, Monica." "Evelyn, please. Eat the soup." The air in the room grew heavy, charged with a static electricity that made the hair on my arms stand up. The thunder crashed outside, shaking the house, but neither of us blinked. Leo was still gripping my ankle under the table. I reached down and patted his hand gently, letting him know I was safe, letting him know the monster had been caught. Monica stared at the spoon. She knew what was in there. She knew that if she ate it, she wouldn't die. She wasn't allergic to shellfish, but if she ate it, she was proving it was safe. And if she proved it was safe, and I ate it, I would die. But if she refused, she was admitting guilt. She was trapped. She started, sweat beading on her forehead. "I think I put too much salt in it. Maybe we shouldn't." "I love salt," I said. "Eat it." She looked at the door. She looked at her purse on the sideboard. She was calculating the distance. "Grandma," Leo whispered from under the table. "Stay there, Leo," I said, never taking my eyes off Monica. "Monica," I said softly, "if you don't pick up that spoon in the next 5 seconds, I am going to assume that you are trying to kill me, and if I assume that, I am going to make a phone call." Monica's lip trembled. She looked at the bowl. It was her undoing. The weapon she had forged was now pointing straight at her. She reached for the spoon. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely hold it. She dipped it into the soup. She lifted it. The smell of the shrimp paste was stronger now, or maybe it was just the smell of fear. She brought it to her mouth. She hesitated. Then she snapped. With a scream of pure, terrified frustration, she swiped her arm across the table. Crash! The bowl flew off the table. It hit the wall, shattering into 100 pieces. The creamy white soup exploded outward, splattering the expensive wallpaper, soaking the Persian rug, covering the floor in a mess of potatoes and poison. "I can't," she screamed, standing up, knocking her chair over. "I can't do this. You witch! You stingy, hateful old witch!" "Monica," I barked, standing up. "Sit down." "No," she shrieked. "You sit on your millions while I drown. You track every penny. You humiliate me. I needed that money. I needed it tonight." "So you decided to murder me for it?" I asked calmly. "It was the only way," she yelled, her eyes wild. "The retinal scan. You have to be dead for the backup to work. I didn't want to hurt you. I just needed you to stop breathing for a minute." "That is generally how hurting someone works, Monica," I said dryly. She looked at the mess on the floor. She realized what she had done. She had confessed. She had destroyed the evidence, but she had confessed. She looked at the door. "I'm leaving," she panted. "I'm taking Leo, and I'm leaving." "You are not taking my grandson," I said. "He's my son," she screamed. She lunged toward the table, trying to reach under it to grab Leo. "Leo, run to the study," I shouted. Leo scrambled out from the other side of the table. He was fast. He bolted for the door. Monica chased him. "Leo, come here." She reached the doorway of the dining room. She was 5 feet from the foyer, 5 feet from the front door, 5 feet from freedom, but she didn't make it. A large, imposing figure stepped out of the shadows of the hallway, blocking her path. It was Mr. Graves, my head of security, a former linebacker with a neck the size of a tree trunk. Monica slammed into him and bounced off. She fell backward onto the floor. "Going somewhere, Mrs. Harper?" Mr. Graves asked, his voice deep and rumbling. Monica scrambled backward, crab-walking away from him. She looked at me. "How?" I held up my phone. It was under the table, in my lap. "When Leo grabbed my ankle," I said, "I didn't just drop the spoon. I sent a text. Code red dining room. Now." I walked over to her. I leaned on my cane. I looked down at the woman who had tried to turn my family dinner into a funeral. "You underestimated 2 things, Monica," I said. "You underestimated my grandson's intelligence, and you underestimated my paranoia." I pointed to the rug where the soup was soaking into the wool. "Mr. Graves," I said, "please secure Mrs. Harper until the police arrive, and have someone collect a sample of that soup from the floor. I want a full toxicology report for the district attorney." Monica started to sob. "Please." "Evelyn, Vinny is going to kill me. If I go to jail, I can't pay him. He's going to kill me." "Well," I said, turning away, "at least you won't have to worry about the menu in prison. I hear they don't serve seafood." I walked over to Leo, who was peeking out from behind the grandfather clock in the hall. I knelt down, ignoring the pain in my knees. I pulled him into my arms. He was shaking. "I'm sorry, Grandma," he cried. "I told on Mommy." "You did the right thing, Leo," I whispered, kissing his forehead. "You saved me. You are the bravest boy in the world." I held him tight as the sirens began to wail in the distance, cutting through the storm. The police arrived 7 minutes later. In Savannah, in a storm, that is considered light speed. But to me, standing in the hallway holding my trembling grandson, while my daughter-in-law screamed obscenities at my head of security, it felt like a lifetime. 2 uniformed officers burst through the front door, rain dripping from their brims, hands on their holsters. They took one look at Mr. Graves, who was holding Monica by the upper arm with the impassive grip of a statue, and the shattered china on the dining room floor, and they knew the situation was contained. "She tried to kill me," Monica shrieked when she saw the badges. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "She's crazy. She attacked me. I want to press charges." It was a bold strategy. Stupid, but bold. "Officer," I said, my voice cutting through her hysteria like a razor. "My name is Evelyn Harper. This is my home. That woman is my daughter-in-law. She just attempted to poison me with a concentrated allergen in my dinner to bypass the biometric security on my safe. My grandson witnessed it. My security detail detained her as she attempted to flee." The lead officer, a man named Sergeant Miller, looked at the mess on the floor. He sniffed the air. The smell of the shrimp paste was unmistakable now, rising from the soggy rug like a toxic cloud. "Shellfish?" Miller asked, looking at me. "Deadly allergy," I confirmed. Anaphylactic. And she knew? She cooked it, I said. Miller walked over to Monica. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. Is there shellfish in that soup? It was a mistake, Monica sobbed, pivoting instantly from accuser to victim. I didn't know. I thought it was fish sauce. I was just trying to add flavor. It was an accident. She threw the bowl against the wall when I asked her to taste it, I noted dryly. Because you were bullying me, Monica yelled. Check the trash compactor, a small voice said. We all looked down. Leo was standing next to my leg. He had stopped crying. He looked at the police officer with serious, tear-stained eyes. She put the little glass bottle in the smoosher machine, Leo said, pointing to the kitchen, the one with the red juice. Monica went pale. She had forgotten the witness. She had forgotten her son. Miller nodded to his partner. The second officer went into the kitchen. We heard the whir of the compactor being opened, the rustle of garbage bags. A moment later, the officer returned holding a Ziploc bag. Inside, nestled among coffee grounds and eggshells, was the small glass vial. It was broken, but the label, handwritten in marker, was still visible on a shard of glass. Concentrate, and a residue of red sludge remained. That's enough for now, Miller said. He pulled a pair of handcuffs from his belt. Monica Harper, you are under arrest for attempted murder and child endangerment. No! Monica screamed as the metal clicked around her wrists. You can't. Vinny is going to kill me. Evelyn, pay him, please. Just pay the debt and I'll go away, I promise. I'll sign the divorce papers. Just pay him. I don't pay blackmailers, I said, watching as they led her out into the rain, and I don't pay for assassins who fail. As they dragged her out the door, her heels scraping across the marble floor she had coveted so much, she looked back at me one last time. There was no remorse in her eyes, only hatred and fear. The door closed, the sirens wailed again, fading into the night. Mr. Graves stood by the door, adjusting his cuffs. Shall I call the cleaning crew, Mrs. Harper? No, I said, looking at the ruined dining room. Leave it for the crime scene unit. Just make us some hot chocolate, Graves, and bring it to the study. We're done with dinner. The next 24 hours were a blur of statements, lawyers, and detectives. I didn't sleep. I sat in the study with Leo, who fell asleep on the leather sofa wrapped in an Afghan. I watched him breathe. I watched the rise and fall of his chest, knowing that if he had stayed in the pantry, if he had been too scared to speak, I would be in the morgue right now. David landed in Tokyo at 4 a.m. our time. I called him immediately. Mom, he answered, his voice groggy. Is everything okay? It's early there. David, I said, you need to come home now. What? Why? Is it Leo? Leo is safe, I said, but Monica is in jail. There was a long silence on the line. Jail? For what? DUI? Shoplifting? Attempted murder, I said. He flew back on the next cargo flight out. He arrived at Harper House 20 hours later. He looked like he had aged 10 years in a day. His uniform was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. He walked into the foyer. I was waiting for him. Mom, he whispered. He hugged me. He held me tighter than he had since he was a child. He was trembling. I'm okay, David, I said, patting his back. I'm okay. He pulled away. Where is she? County lockup, I said. Denied bail. The flight risk was too high given the debt. And Leo? Playing in the garden with Mr. Graves. He's resilient. David walked into the living room and collapsed onto the sofa. He put his head in his hands. I didn't know, he sobbed. I swear to God, Mom, I didn't know about the debt. I didn't know about the loan shark. I knew she liked nice things. I knew she spent too much. But I thought we were managing. I thought she was happy. She wasn't happy, David, I said gently, sitting across from him. She was hungry. There is a difference. Some people have a hole inside them that no amount of money can fill. Monica was one of them. She tried to kill you, he said, his voice cracking. With soup in our house, with Leo watching. She was desperate, I said. Desperation makes monsters of us all. But yes, she did. "I'm so sorry," he wept. "I brought her here. I brought this into your life. I almost got you killed." "You gave me Leo," I said firmly, "and Leo saved my life. So as far as I'm concerned, the ledger is balanced." We sat there for a long time, listening to the old house settle. It felt different now. The tension was gone. The secret was out. The viper had been removed from the nest. 3 months later, November in Savannah is beautiful. The humidity breaks, leaving the air crisp and golden. The marshes turn a deep, rust-colored amber. I sat on the back veranda, a blanket over my lap, watching Leo chase a golden retriever puppy across the lawn. We got the puppy last week. Leo named him Spoon. I didn't have the heart to ask why, but I suspected it was a tribute to the weapon that saved us. David walked out carrying 2 mugs of tea. He was dressed in jeans and a sweater, grounded for a few months while he sorted out the divorce and the custody battle, which wasn't much of a battle considering Monica was facing 20 years in a federal penitentiary for fraud and attempted homicide. "Here," he said, handing me a mug. "Earl Grey, no leaks." I smiled. "Too soon?" "Maybe a little," he grinned, sitting in the rocking chair next to me. "How is the lawyer?" I asked. "Good," David said. "Monica accepted the plea deal this morning. 15 years. She gave up the names of the loan sharks in exchange for protective custody. Vinny and his crew were picked up by the FBI yesterday." "Good," I said. "And the debt?" "Settled," David said. "I sold the Porsche. I sold the jewelry. I liquidated her assets. It covered most of it. I paid the rest from my savings. I didn't want you to touch it." "I would have paid it," I said. "I know," David said, "but I needed to clean up my own mess. I needed to know I could fix it." I looked at him. He looked stronger. The blindness was gone. He saw the world clearly now, including his own mistakes. "I made some changes to the trust," I said, sipping my tea. David tensed. "Mom, you don't have to." "I skipped you," I said. He blinked. "What?" "The Harper Trust," I said. "The bulk of the estate, the shipping shares, the bonds. It doesn't go to you anymore." David sighed, leaning back. "I understand. I trusted her. I proved I couldn't handle—" "Stop," I said. "It's not a punishment. It's a protection. The trust now skips a generation. It goes directly to Leo, held in a blind trust until he is 30 years old. You are the trustee, of course. You manage it. You get a generous stipend. But the principal? It belongs to the boy who checks the ingredients." David looked out at the lawn where Leo was currently wrestling the puppy, his laughter ringing out clear and pure in the autumn air. "He saved us," David said softly. "He did," I agreed. "He saw what we couldn't. He saw the poison." "Thank you, Mom," David said. "Don't thank me," I said. "Thank the pantry door for being open." I leaned back in my chair. I closed my eyes. I listened to the wind in the oaks and the laughter of my grandson. I felt the warmth of the tea in my hands. For years, I had worried about who would take over the Harper legacy. I worried David was too soft. I worried Monica was too greedy. I worried the house would fall into ruin. But now, I wasn't worried. I opened my eyes and watched Leo running in the sun. He was small. He was quiet. But he was brave. And he knew the difference between a good soup and a bad one. The house was safe. The future was safe. And as for dinner tonight, we were ordering pizza, pepperoni, no onions, and definitely, absolutely, no seafood.